Alright, hey guys, Hi-Fri here. Took a little break to work on my IM project. Aphex, if you haven't seen my last video, um, it's a single DD IM that I was working on, and the first batch is currently sold out, so thank you very much to everybody who participated. All the units are pretty much mailed out. I do have one or two left that I need to send out as samples, and I have a few review units that should be going out soon. But for everybody who bought a unit, they are on the way, and I do have parts coming for the second batch. Now, to everybody who emailed me, I did get your emails. I have not responded to them yet because I do not have the parts. I am just starting to receive the materials that I need for the second batch. So I will notify you as soon as those come in, and we'll get you guys set up with a pair. Also, it probably I'd say anywhere from like 2 days to a couple weeks, you'll start seeing reviews and stuff. Um, there, I'll go into more detail in another video, but yeah. So anyway, so we'll start seeing reviews and stuff pop up, and people can give me their thoughts and opinions on it. But today we're going to get to an IM that has been sitting here for quite a while, and I do apologize to TRN, but I was getting a little burnout and I needed to take a break. But today that is changed. So we have the TRN MT1MAX. This is a single DDIM. Currently on AliExpress. I looked up the price. It's about $10, $11 with shipping. I don't know, anywhere from like 12 to, or tax and everything, 12 to like 16 bucks, something like that. So yeah, so decent, budget range IM. It's continuation on the long running MT1. So they had the MT1, the MT1 Pro, and I believe this is the MT1 Max. There are 3 tuning switches. We'll get into the graphs and how the tuning switches affect the tuning of the IMs. And on the back here, we'll just take a look. So single dynamic, 108 dB sensitivity, 20 to 20 kilohertz, impedance of 22 ohms, and yeah, so pretty much all the standard stuff. And let's get into the unboxing. Now, it's been a while since I listened to these, so I'm going to switch up the video a little differently, and I'm going to do listening impressions during the video, and then I'll get back to you guys when I am finished listening to them. So yeah, so anyway, so here's the IMs themselves. Decent face plates. It's kind of interesting. Got a little vent there in the middle. Now, I keep preaching this, and I'm not sure if it's really reaching people, but I do not believe in open back IMs or like vented IMs. There are only a couple IMs that I've seen that are usually pretty expensive that have a continuous vent that runs from the front to the rear, but there are no drivers unless it's a larger diameter driver. There are really no drivers that have like an open back or vent that leads out. Even the planars that we've seen recently, they all have a dampener or some sort of dampening material on the back, which limits the amount of airflow through the IM. So even if the entire back is exposed, it won't make any difference in tuning. The only difference that you can possibly make in tuning is if the entire chamber is hermetically sealed. You can add further dampening, so more like another dampener on the back, and you can change the tuning that way. But you can't go in the opposite without opening up the IM and removing the dampener. Okay, and just as a demonstration, so this is how you could change the tuning by adding more dampening in the back. So you could add another dampener, but that would only work given the IM is completely hermetically sealed and there are no holes or points of leakage anywhere else. So the only way for this to work is if it's completely sealed. Now, another way you can change the tuning is by changing, poking holes or adding another dampener right here. This will primarily just affect the bass and some of the lower mids. And then if you want to change any of the treble or mid peaks, you can either add foam or you can add more dampening material. Now, foam tends to kind of dampen the mids a little bit. Sometimes it can affect the highs. It just depends on how much foam and where the foam is. But for the most part, I found that foam kind of tames the mids a little bit, and then a mesh or adding another dampener on the front will tame the highs more than anything. But yeah, so anyway, that is that. So let's get into the packaging. So we got the IMs themselves. And I need to speak more on these. I haven't spoke about this in a while, but these are the TRN T-tips. I love these tips. These are really good. It's not often that TRN makes something that I really enjoy, but when they do, they really do it right. And these TRN T-tips are awesome in my opinion. I really like them. I like the sound, I like the fit, the comfort, the stability, everything about them I like. And also their TRN T2 Pro cable, their detachable cable. I really like this cable as well. Now this connector is slightly, it's not flawed, but it's just under engineered with more insertions. So if you pull it apart and change out the tips on this often, it'll get looser and looser with time. And on my other cable, this is a different one, but on my other cable, it'll start creeping out, and then eventually I'll start hearing the sound going out, and then it'll just pop out. And occasionally I'll find myself having to reinsert, where are you at? I'll have to reinsert the connector. So just keeping that in mind. But yeah, so those are the two things that I really do enjoy from TRN. I think they did a fantastic job with both of them. But yeah, so for the MT1MAX, sorry, we have a cable here. Oh, it's black this time. Okay. This is the first time I'm seeing this cable. Plastic ear hooks, but they're a little on the softer side. They feel a little more like silicone almost. You can still tell they're plastic though, and they are curved fairly well. Probably a little bit big. They could probably shrink them a little bit. Maybe make them a little less stiff, but that's not bad at all. That's actually pretty decent. Is there a cinch? No, no chin cinch. So unfortunately, there's no way to you know, cinch up the cable. And angled connector on the end. So not a bad cable at all. This is actually a pretty nice cable for these IMs. And then as far as the other tips go, now usually I've noticed TRN has been including the T-tips with the IMs themselves, and then the additional tips are just their plain silicone. So yeah, so we get two more pairs of their standard silicone tips. Alright, so that is what you get with the TRN MT1MAX. Okay, so this is the whole arrangement here. The cable is a little bit springy. I'm just finding that out. So it's not a bad cable, but it is a little on the springy side. Let's get into the IMs a little bit. Let's talk about the switches. So there's a small little oversight with the IMs. TRN, this is the only company or the only model of IM that this has happened to me with. But if all the switches are in the off position, you'll get no sound. There'll be no sound whatsoever. The switches only work in the on position, so that kind of limits your tuning options. But really, I mean, switched IMs are kind of a gimmick in my opinion anyway. But I mean, you already have enough options with this IM to to adjust the sound. It's not really a big deal. But yeah, so if all the switches are in the down position, if I can get this damn camera to focus, if all the switches are in the down position, you will not get any sound out of the IM. So just keep that in mind. And let's get into the listening tests. Alright, now for this IM, all listening tests are being done on my Poco X3 NFC through my Hi-Res S3 Pro. And today's listening track is going to be one of my go-tos. It is Pure Love by Hayley Williams. This is an excellent track for testing dynamics, panning, or any kind of imbalance, like channel imbalance, that kind of stuff. And it has a pretty good range of frequencies throughout. It's a little on the dark side. It's not the brightest track, or it's not the fullest sounding track, but it is pretty good for testing the overall balance of tuning and also channel balance. Okay guys, I'm back from my listening impressions, and so just as a reference, so this is my Hi-Fri Aphex. This is I think the second tuning revision of the IMs, and this has been my daily driver for the last few weeks now. I really haven't been listening to any other IM except for my finished version. Let me find it real quick. Oh wait, here they are. I was just about to say I misplaced them. So yeah, so this is the pre-final revision of the Hi-Fri. Different design. This uses a straight nozzle, which is, I think, inferior to the angled nozzle, in my opinion. These drivers really need an angled nozzle. But anyway, let's get that out of the way. So my review of my listening impressions of the MT1MAX. They sound like a $10 set of IMs. They're not bad, but they're not going to win any awards. There's only one suitable tuning, in my opinion, and I will share that with you guys in a moment. But I noticed the bass is really boomy. It's got a very boomy, kind of slightly muddy texture to it. It's not very well defined. I mean, it sounds okay, but it's not anything special. These are overly bassy. So if you're into bass, you might like these. If you're not into bass, like I said, there's only one tuning mode or setting where these will be good for you. The upper tuning, like the mid-range, upper mid-range, is a little bitey. It's got a dry kind of timbre to it. So these are pretty dry sounding. There's a dip in the lower, like upper mid, lower treble area, which you can hear, and it's just it's lacking a little bit of fullness. It's kind of an uneven sounding. There's too much roll off, in my opinion. You can't hear a lot of the upper end, higher end treble, like the chimes and stuff. They lack definition, texture. It's just this driver plays more well towards mids, I think, than anything. The mids are probably the best feature of this IM, but they're a little on the shouty side and just a little bit aggressive. Other than that, I don't see many other problems with it. It's not a very expensive IM, but it also has a lot of competition. In this price range, not so much. KZ would be the only real company to compete at this price range, in my opinion, for the $11, $12, $15 price mark. And they have some serious competition, but yeah. So anyway, I'd say the mids are the strongest point. The imaging, layering, all that stuff is just kind of average. It's nothing really stands out at me, and nothing really seems to be lacking in any way. I didn't really listen too much for the for the imaging or the layering or the depth or anything like that. Everything sounded pretty fine and coherent for the most part. Maybe a little bit big because of the tuning, so maybe the vocals and everything kind of occupied too much of a space and there wasn't enough room for things to kind of move around. Everything is more kind of on the cramped side or bloated side. And you'll see that with some IMs as far as the tuning goes. For example, and I'm not trying to tout my own projects, but this second revision here, these leave so much room for stuff to move, and vocals are very isolated, and everything has its place. I mean, these outperform these like tenfold. Okay, there's no competition, but this is not a mass manufactured product. Now, if they took the driver and put it in the shell and copied all the tuning stuff that I did, then they could probably get there too. But at what price point, who knows. But anyway, so that is my opinion of the TRN MT1MAX. As far as tonality, I'm going to give it out of a grade of A to F. I'll give it a C tier for tonality, or a grade of C. And then as far as the technicalities go, probably also give it a grade of C, maybe a grade of B, because the technicalities are okay for the price, but there's nothing special. But yeah, so just a decent sounding IM, something if you don't have any money and you just need a pair of earphones to play music, then these will do it for you. As far as the effectiveness of the tuning switches, like I said, these are too bassy in my opinion. So all of the tuning modes except for one are not ideal for listening to music. There's really only one, and I'll demonstrate that here in just a second. Alright guys, please excuse the handheld mode. So this is the MT1, and let's get into the first tuning. So this is up, down, down. So basically first switch on, both other switches off. You'll notice there is a good amount of bass presence. Like I said, these are too bassy in my opinion. Little dip in the mids here. All this is fine. This area is fine. The mids here in the upper mid region are a little boomy and not great in my opinion. They're just a little too boomy, a little too sloppy. The sub bass, same thing. It gets better as it gets to the sub bass, but the mid bass is the real offender in my opinion. The mid-range portion sounds okay, but because of this peak here at 2.5K, they are a little bit on the shouty side. And then you start losing gain in the presence region. So a lot of the resolution comes from this region up in here. This is where a lot of the resolution comes from, and then a lot of your detail comes from your upper treble in this area. And you'll notice after about 5K, it falls off a cliff. So they sound very veiled, not a lot of energy here. So you're missing out on a lot of detail, a lot of resolution. Then we have this coupler peak here. In all reality, it probably just skips across like that, and then you instantly lose gain here. There is a little bit of energy in the upper end, but it's so far below the mids here that you don't hear much of this energy at all. So the treble and the upper treble just kind of disappears. Now this is down, up, down, and we'll see that it has flattened out greatly. So here's the first switch up. Here's the second switch up. Now this is the ideal tuning mode in my opinion for this IM. The bass becomes a little bit rounded, so you do lose out on a little bit of that sub bass presence, but this is like on the precipice of being too much bass. It's not quite too much. It's close to being just right in my opinion. It could stand to probably be like 2 dB lower, but yeah. So anyway, so there's the bass, and you can see it's much flatter. Also, we lost this mid peak here, and our like peak in the presence region has gone up a little bit. So we've regained a little bit more detail, and we've lost just a touch of the shout, but overall the mids are still a little on the loud side. And like I said, the timbre is dry, so you'll still get kind of that aggressive. You know, you might get a little bit of fatigue from the texture of the mids. But then we get back to this area here in the upper, like the presence or brilliance region, where the most of the resolution and the details lie, and you can see we've gained a little bit of amplitude, or the scale has graph has kind of shifted a little bit, so we do get just a little bit more treble out of this area here. But other than that, uh, not too much. It could probably stand. I don't know. In this case, it might be a little on the bright side. This driver just has kind of a gritty texture to it. It's not the smoothest. So yeah. So there's that, and then we have the last switch, which is down, down, up. So the third switch on, and you'll see that we got that bass back. So bass heads rejoice. This would be probably a decent tuning for bass heads. And then we have up, up, down. So this is the first switch, second switch on, and this is all bass, no treble. Down, up, up. Same story as the down, down, up. Not too much of a difference, so a lot of bass. Trebles kind of come up a little bit. And then we have up, down, up. And same thing, we lost all our treble. And the worst one of them all, which is up, up, up. And it is all bass, no treble, with that hideous mid peak there. And yeah, just not good at all. So in my opinion, the only two suitable tunings would be down, up, up, and down, up, down. So the first switch on and the two last switches on. Those are these tunings here. But the main one that I enjoy would be the middle switch being on only, because you get a little bit of relief from that bass there. Okay. All right, and I don't know, as far as an overall rating of like value, I don't know, maybe a 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's probably better out there, but let's get into your favorite part, and that is going to be taking them apart. Got my handy dandy cutters here. These are great for removing faceplates. Alright, so there is our driver. You'll notice the switches up top. Let's get this bad boy too. So I'm not going to listen to these again, so I might as well do it to both. Alright, so there is our driver and some circuitry inside. Alright, I have liberated the frequency divider. You can see here we got some capacitors. If I can get it in focus. Alright, so you got some capacitors, a couple of resistors. So that is our circuit board. Alright, and then I will liberate the driver and I'll be right back. Alright, I liberated it. I tried to keep the shell intact because I would like to reuse these with the little frequency divider there, but I thoroughly boogered up the driver. So anyway, here is the PCB. Oops. There's the PCB, just a simple PCB. There's the magnet, the back part of the housing with the dampener. And then we have our driver here. Alright, so here's the diaphragm, magnet assembly, back plate, the shell of the driver. Now, I will say this. This profile of driver is very, very common. There are many different Chinese companies that manufacture this type of driver. KZ has their own factory. I don't know if TRN uses the same factory or different factory. But there are many different levels of quality of this type of driver. So, for instance, you'll notice that, that my IM has the same kind of driver inside. Same build quality as far as the shell goes and all that stuff, but these are far superior to this driver here, and a lot of that is just down to the driver membrane. This is just the cheapest driver you can get, which is just a typical PET kind of material. There's no composites, nothing like that. So the diaphragm material has a lot to do with it. This is the magnetic gap on the driver, which seems okay, maybe somewhat on par with what KZ has been claiming with theirs. I'm not exactly sure. I know KZ said that they had made the gap smaller, which is not necessarily a good thing. It depends on where the magnetic flux is. If you make the gap too small, you'll have more risk of the voice coil rubbing, or you'll shift the flux in such a way where it won't have as much power to repel the electromagnet or the motor, the diaphragm of the, or the voice coil of the driver. But anyway, so there is that. Give me 1 second. Okay, so just as a comparison, so all three of these drivers come out of the same profile of driver shell or whatever, same shape and everything, same magnet layout and all that. But we have three different kinds. So this is from the MT1MAX, just your simple PET. This driver here is, I'm not sure what it's in, but this was like a one that you can buy off AliExpress. This is like a cheap painted carbon nano on top of some metallic material. This driver is not great, and in my opinion is not real. It's like painted material. It's not actually impregnated. And this is the driver that is in my Aphex. And now this driver is real. It is probably still painted. I'm not exactly sure, but I believe it is impregnated, just because of the thickness of the material, because it is very thin. Okay, so the coating, at least whatever it is a very thin coating. And also there is a sort of transparency to this carbon diaphragm that I have not seen with some other carbon diaphragms. KZ does have this same type of diaphragm in some of their IMs, at least their older IMs. I don't think they manufacture that driver anymore, but this is the driver that I'm currently using, and yeah, it's no competition whatsoever. It's night and day. So the quality, the appearance, I should say, of the driver has nothing to do with the driver's sound quality, and most people know that. That's kind of, an unspoken thing. It's just, yeah, of course, the view of it or the appearance of it shouldn't have anything to do with its performance, but some people do see it that way. But yeah, these drivers are a dime a dozen. Like I said, there are many different companies that manufacture them, and which is kind of fun because it's like Pandora's box. They all look the same on the outside, but you never know what you're going to get on the inside. You may get a diamond in the rough, or you may get some other, just cheap driver. There's no telling. But also the good part is, it means that since so many of these are produced, for the most part, they're relatively affordable, and since the driver material or the diaphragm material is the only thing that's really important, as long as they do a good job of that, really that's all you need for a good speaker. And maybe the quality of windings or whatnot. I'm not sure, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool to share with you guys. But so yeah, so that was the MT1. In the world of IMs, or at least in this current hobby, things are moving a mile a minute. I've kind of stopped talking to companies, and I'm sure companies are not don't want to reach out to me, partially because I stopped doing reviews, but also because they're scared of what I'm going to say about their products. So if you do talk to any companies, tell them to hit me up. They should not be scared. If I do not like something, then I'm just going to say I don't like it. And if other people don't like it, they're going to do the same thing. So it's no different. I guess maybe they don't want me to say negative things if there's something funky going on inside, because they're afraid that people are going to jump down their throat. I don't know. But anyway, that's fine, because I'm more interested in doing my own thing right now, instead of doing reviews. But figured I'd shoot out a few videos for you guys and let you see what I got going on. But yeah, it's not a bad IM by any means. So final summary, the MT1MAX is not a bad IM. It's not a great IM. It's fair for the price. I think it's fine. Maybe they could have used a better quality diaphragm, charged a few more bucks for it. Maybe thought out the switches a little better, just because all the when they're all in the down position, no sound comes out. But other than that, that's fine. The only other thing that I noticed was the ear hooks. When they're in the ear, when the IMs are in the ears, they kind of push on my ears weird, and they feel like they're gonna fall off my head. So, but anyway, it's a budget IM. There's really not much that you can complain about otherwise. So, anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the next one right around the corner.